This episode is brought to you by Simply Expat. That's Simply Expat, one word.
Simply expat.
Ever notice how some cultures just seem to radiate like this sort of inner strength? Like no matter what life throws at them, they find a way to bounce back,
Yeah.
often even stronger than before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating.
So today we are taking a deep dive into the Philippines.
Okay.
And we are exploring how something, a seemingly simple activity, karaoke, reveals something much deeper about Filipino culture
Right.
and their incredible ability to cope with challenges.
What's really interesting about the Philippines is how they've woven the sense of like collective enjoyment into how they approach resilience. So, music, especially karaoke, it's not just entertainment there. It becomes this really powerful tool for processing emotions and bonding as a community, especially, when times get tough.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So our source for this deep dive is this really fascinating podcast called Flavors of the World.
Okay.
And they actually go really in depth on this. They argue that for Filipinos, Videoke, which is what they call it, is almost like a cultural therapy session.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good comparison, actually. The podcast hosts talk about how Filipinos will use karaoke to release like pent-up emotions, process difficult experiences that they've gone through, and to just, find moments of joy even when things are really difficult, even in the face of some kind of adversity. And this actually connects directly to a core Filipino value known as Bayanihan.
Bayanihan. So that's a new one for me, I have to admit. What does that mean exactly?
So it's a really beautiful concept, and it emphasizes this like communal unity and support. Imagine this. You have a village, it's hit by a typhoon, and instead of just, giving into despair, everyone comes together and they start to rebuild, and they're sharing food, they're sharing stories, and yeah, they're even like breaking out in song together. So, that's Bayanihan in action. It's this understanding that you're not alone in what you're going through. Like your community is there to help lift you up, and not just like practically speaking, but emotionally as well.
Wow. That's really incredible. So it's like karaoke is like this natural extension of that, of Bayanihan. It's a way to find those moments of release, to connect with people, even when surrounded by chaos.
Yeah.
Like it almost seems like even when things are at their worst, Filipinos kind of make this conscious choice to find the joy in those moments of togetherness.
It's true. And the podcast actually highlights this with a really powerful story. They describe a scene, it's in the aftermath of a really devastating typhoon, and you have this group of Filipinos and they're huddled together, but they're not in despair. You know what they're doing? They're singing their hearts out
Wow.
with smiles like on their faces. And it really like perfectly captures this whole idea of finding, light when things are dark, of, leaning on your community, leaning on those shared experiences to get you through the really tough times.
Yeah, it's kind of like that old saying, laughter is the best medicine, but in this case, it's karaoke.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not about, pretending the hardship isn't there. It's not about ignoring it, right?
Yeah.
It's more about actively looking for those moments of release, of connection while you're in it.
Exactly. And this actually points to a cultural value that's like really deeply woven into Filipino society. So the podcast, they emphasize how Filipinos are well known for facing hardship with a smile. And it's not to like, mask the pain or pretend it's not there, but it's more of a reflection of hope.
Yeah.
And a faith that things are going to get better.
That's incredible. It's just fascinating how this cultural value, something so like deep, can manifest in something as seemingly simple as karaoke. It becomes more than entertainment, like you were saying. It's almost the symbol of their strength, their ability to find joy even when things are tough. It really is. And it's not just some cultural quirk. There's a growing amount of research that actually supports this link between doing things together, especially with your community, with other people, and, your mental well-being. This whole idea that engaging in shared experiences, especially if they're joyful, can be a really, really powerful way of coping with things. And like we were saying, it's not just about distracting yourself. It's deeper than that. It's about finding meaning, finding purpose, even when things are falling apart around you.
So like belting out your favorite song with a bunch of your neighbors after, a typhoon rips through town. It's not just fun. It's actually a way of like processing that trauma and rebuilding your sense of community from the ground up.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like the Philippines might be onto something here, right?
Yeah.
And the podcast takes it even further. They actually use karaoke as a metaphor for the Filipino spirit itself.
Wow.
They argue that this activity that, most people just see as lighthearted entertainment, it actually reflects something much deeper about this resilience that Filipinos have in their approach to overcoming challenges. It's really unique.
Okay, so karaoke as a metaphor for the Filipino spirit, huh? I gotta say, that has my attention. I mean, this sounds like we're going way beyond just like a fun Friday night out, right?
Right, exactly.
So walk me through this a little bit more. I'm really curious.
Okay, so think about it. What is karaoke really all about at its heart? It's about expressing yourself, right? Like letting your guard down a little bit
Yeah.
and connecting with other people through music, which is such a powerful, powerful tool for that. It's about finding those moments of pure joy, of just letting go, even when everything around you feels chaotic and crazy. And honestly, isn't that kind of how Filipinos approach life in a lot of ways?
That's such a good point. It's about finding those moments of joy. Yeah, connecting with people, letting go, even when things are tough.
Mm.
Like that connection the podcast makes, it's really powerful, and it kind of makes you wonder. As someone from maybe a more individualistic culture myself, are we missing something here? Like, is there something in this that could help us build our own resilience?
Yeah, and it's not to say that other cultures don't have their own ways of coping and connecting, of course. Every culture is different, right? But what I think is so valuable about the Filipino example, the way the Flavors of the World podcast presents it, is that it gives us this whole new perspective. It makes us stop and ask, what if we didn't just see challenges as like these obstacles that we have to grit our teeth and get through? What if we saw them as opportunities, Opportunities to come together, to find strength in those shared experiences, and yeah, even to find joy in the middle of the struggle.
Wow. I mean, it's such a timely perspective too. With everything going on in the world right now,
Mm.
it's really something. And actually, the Flavors of the World hosts, they shared this image, and it's so vivid, it really stuck with me. They were talking about Filipinos singing karaoke in the aftermath of this awful typhoon, this devastation everywhere.
Mhm.
And as I said, it wasn't like this fake cheerfulness at all. It was like this genuine sense of hope,
Mhm.
this deep belief in the power of community to overcome just anything.
Exactly. It goes back to that Bayanihan spirit,
Yeah.
that understanding that even when you're surrounded by chaos, even when things are really, really hard, the human spirit, especially when it's nurtured by community and shared experience, it finds a way to shine through.
Wow. It makes you think about how we can bring more of that into our own lives.
Yeah.
Even if karaoke isn't necessarily our jam, what are those things, those activities that can bring us together like that, that help
Mhm.
us cope, that help us tap into that sense of beyonding in? Because that's what I'm thinking about now, after learning about all of this, it's really got me reflecting on my own life for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most valuable takeaways from this whole conversation. We're not saying everyone needs to go out and like buy a karaoke machine or anything, right? It's more about recognizing the power of, yeah, community, of shared experiences and just a little bit of joy. It's about actively looking for those moments of connection, of being with each other, especially when things get hard. And hey, Filipinos have just found this really amazing, joyful, and expressive way to do it.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It does, doesn't it? It's like this reminder that being resilient isn't just about, being tough on your own. It's
Mhm.
more about being able to tap into like the collective strength of the people around you.
Totally. And finding those moments of joy, like we were talking about, those shared experiences, no matter what they look like, that can help you get through those tough times.
And actually, towards the end of their segment, the Flavors of the World hosts, they ask this really interesting question. They ask, what if, instead of always trying to just like tough it out on our own, what if we looked at cultures like the Philippines for inspiration?
That is such a good question. What if we actually embraced this whole idea that collective joy is actually like a key ingredient when it comes to being resilient?
It really is about shifting how you see things, looking beyond just your own little bubble and realizing how powerful those shared experiences are, especially the joyful ones. They can really help us deal with challenges in a whole new way.
Okay, so bottom line, what does all of this mean for the people listening, right? Even if they're not, running out to belt out a power ballad after a stressful day at work, what's the main takeaway here?
I think it's about looking at the resources you might already have in your life and, not even realizing it. So, think about the stuff you do, the activities, whatever, that brings people together, the stuff that gives you that sense of belonging, that shared purpose. Maybe it's volunteering, maybe you've joined a choir, or even just sitting down for a meal with people you love.
Yeah, yeah. It's those everyday moments, those connections, those times when you're sharing joy, sharing support, maybe that is the secret sauce to actually like building a more resilient life for yourself.
Exactly. It's not that anyone has all the answers or anything, but like being open to seeing things in new ways, maybe even taking a page from Filipinos, like really embracing that power of community, finding joy in unexpected places, remembering that you don't have to go through hard stuff alone.
So next time, life throws one of its curveballs at you and you're feeling overwhelmed, just remember the karaoke cure.
The karaoke cure. I love it.
Right. But really, it's not even just about the music itself, is it?
No.
It's more about the power of connecting with people, of
Yeah.
sharing those experiences, and having a little bit of fun along the way.
Absolutely.
So until next time, everybody, keep exploring, keep connecting, and hey, maybe, just maybe, keep singing.
Nice.